Oh, it is Cowboys. It is Vikings. 50 years ago, Roger Staubach closed his eyes, said Hail Mary, and he found Drew Pearson in the end zone for a touchdown as the Cowboys ripped out the heart of the Minnesota Vikings. And supposedly, they've hated the Cowboys ever since. Oh, it is another edition of Love of the Star, which is proudly presented by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing partner for the Dallas Cowboys. And it is winter's here. It's upon us. All right. You want to make sure that heater's fixed up. Same day or you don't pay policy to certain repairs. The On Time Experts, 100% satisfaction guarantee. No excuses, no exceptions. Friendly background. Check technicians. You're going to feel comfortable when they come in your home. I know that's big for me. I got two little girls. I'm not trying to have some randos walking in the house. We got transparent pricing and no surprises or add-ons or hidden fees. And there's a lot of other companies that are trying to sneak those in on you. So visit theontimeexperts.com and click that book now button. Brian Broaddus, the Super Bowl winning scout. I am Zach Wolchuk. Together we are 2/5 of the G-Bag Nation on 105.3 The Fan. And thank you for making Love of the Star a part of your day. Brian, you've been scouting them out, man. You've been doing it. You've been giving up the report. Offense, defense, special teams. This Minnesota Vikings team, cause for concern, or are Cowboys going to roll?
Yeah, and by the way, I was 12 years old when Roger Staubach threw that pass. Man. So it was, I remember it. I actually do remember the game. It was crazy. But, where things are difficult for the Vikings are offensively, still very talented at wide receiver, still very talented at tight end, got some nice players along the offensive line, the running backs, nothing to say, oh, well, that's a huge disadvantage for them. They have a disadvantage at quarterback. They really, really do. And this is a football team that, you and I had the opportunity earlier on the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 every day, Monday through Friday. Had a chance to talk to Ben Lieber, who's part of the Vikings broadcast team. And, it's really a lot of it has to do with, he was talking about the development of the quarterback and the expectations that, that the Vikings had. The Vikings have been a team that, say what you want, they've kind of always been able to kind of find a quarterback that's, been able to get things. Sam Darnold did a great job for them. He really, really did. And if they had Sam Darnold right now, we'd be talking about a playoff team because they're that good defensively with the way that they play. It's not the defense is not the issue here. It's the offense, and it's clearly a quarterback, and that's where the Cowboys have a huge advantage in this game. And so it'll be exciting from that standpoint. It's going to be one of those games that's going to be very challenging to Dak. It'll be challenging in the way of when you start to talk about Brian Flores and what he does defensively. He really makes you have to be absolutely sure that whatever play you check into or whatever play you check out of is the right call. You're going to get a lot of this walk up on the line of scrimmage. You're going to get guys to walk out. You're going to get I was talking today, we were breaking down the Vikings. I was watching the Cincinnati game with Browning at quarterback for the Bengals. And in a 30-second period, the Vikings went to 3 different defensive looks in one play. And so they got a look. Browning checks it. Vikings get in another look. He looks like he checks it again. The Vikings come into a third look before the ball was even snapped. That will be the challenge. Dak he's had some here recently. When you talk about Steve Spagnuolo, when you talk about Vic Fangio, Brian Flores is this guy that really I had the utmost respect for what he does and his ability to bring pressure, to blitz, to play not man coverage behind it, even though this is one of the bigger teams when it comes to playing zero blitz coverage where there's no free safety in the middle of the field. They play a lot of base defense, so they match everybody up. So they get they don't have that traditional like nickel that we like to see. So they'll match you up with their base defense. Detroit was a team that did that. The Raiders were a team that does that. And they've got a lot of personnel that's probably not household names, but man, they play as far as the way the scheme goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's excellent. But I started this whole thing talking about the quarterback, and I think that's as I bounce around here, that's been the struggle. That's been the Achilles heel. That's the thing that's put the Vikings behind in some games when they're having to deal with a guy that's basically a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be some growing pains there for J.J. McCarthy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Vikings offense, certainly, and in both sides of the ball, they're super talented. I mean, Justin Jefferson, he's still one of the best wide receivers in all of football. Jordan Addison had to miss some time there. He had the suspension. So, they have been banged up along the offensive line, as Ben Lieber said. It looks like Donovan Jackson, their outstanding left guard, the rookie from Ohio State, is going to be back. I know he was a limited participant in practice today. I think he's probably going to play, but when they're healthy, they bring in two free agents from the Colts. They add the center Ryan Kelly. They got Will Freeze, the guard. Right tackle, I've always wondered how they're doing there. The right tackle, I think, might be the weaker part, Brian O'Neill. But Christian Darrisaw has been a staple for them at left tackle and one of the best left tackles in football. So do you notice a weakness? Is there a spot the Cowboys should try and attack here along that front if they're fully healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, I think that Christian Darrisaw is not the Christian Darrisaw you and I have seen from years past. And Christian Darrisaw has dealt with some knee issues. He's not as mobile as he once was. He's always been kind of a powerful guy, but you see some slippage with his play at the left tackle spot. But they've struggled a little bit with on the right side, as you mentioned. That's kind of been the area where things have broken down for them. When they run the ball, it's a zone running scheme. There's not a lot of imagination to it. It's just pretty much these backs do always talk about play downhill. That I call them track runners, where they're not track speed, but they get on the track and then they kind of follow the blocks. But that's really kind of where the offensive line at times is really, it's not been as good as we've seen Viking teams in the past with some of the backs that they've had. So the offensive line, I would say, if you're going to go after, I think it's on the right side there. Darrisaw, though, as I mentioned, has had some moments where he has struggled with some of his protections. He early in the year, he wasn't in the lineup. That was a problem for them early. They were giving up sacks, they were giving up pressures. But he is a guy that you can go after as a veteran offensive lineman.
And one of the things that J.J. McCarthy, coming off his best game, he was very decisive. He actually he got the ball out, and he granted Washington's defense, they're battling issues on the back end, but he was comfortable. And, much like we talked about, and we've broken down the Lions game, which was very disappointing, but early in that game, they made Jared Goff uncomfortable. And you could see how, he was dirt in the football. If they can find a way to sustain throughout the majority of the football game pressure on a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who does have some mobility, I will say. That was something I remember from Michigan. He can roll out, he can extend plays with his legs. But Quinnen Williams, fourth highest pressure rate in the league since he's joined the Cowboys. They got to find a way to get quick pressure on J.J. McCarthy, and that's when hopefully you make him look like a rookie, and maybe finally you can force some turnovers, which this team has really been searching for.
Yeah, the team has struggled. Dallas has really, really struggled with fumbles, and then also with or creating fumbles, and then also the interceptions. This is an offense that the ball will go down the field. The problem is it's not always accurate when it's going down the field. And you mentioned the Commanders game last week. It was one of the as far as the way that McCarthy played, it was one of the I would say the quickest game for him when you look at
Like time to throw.
Yeah, 2.55. How they're trying to get the ball out.
Sure.
He was very good at that. I think he was like 11 of 14 in those situations. So, Dallas has got to be aware, because Dallas, if you look at the metrics and you look at the eye test, Dallas has struggled with teams that have gotten the ball out quick. And so you do not want to get J.J. McCarthy in some kind of rhythm, throwing the football with Addison and Jefferson and Hawkinson and those guys out there on the receiving end. That could be a very I will challenge people out there when you start to talk about Jefferson and Addison. You bring up, well, are they as good as what you saw from St. Brown and Williams? Are they as good as Brown
absolutely.
and Smith? Where do they? I mean, so this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a challenge, but getting after J.J. McCarthy, I think, is going to be something that, and Matt Eberflus even admitted this, and the question was posed to him today, when they had availability of the coordinators. Early in the game, you had some success with blitzing and the way that you were playing the five-man pressure, and you completely went away from it. And he admitted, he goes, that's something that I have to wear. That's something I have to be accountable for. So early in that game, they were making Jared Goff uncomfortable. Now in this game, you're going to need to find a way to make JJ McCarthy uncomfortable as well.
Which will also lead us to the Cowboys secondary and some questions there. We'll pick that up on the other side. You're listening to the Love of the Star podcast, Love of the Stars and Odyssey podcast. You can find on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus, Zach Wolchuk back. Love of the Star, proudly presented by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing partner for your Dallas Cowboys. Visit the ontimeexperts.com and click the Book Now button. All right, the secondary here, Brian. You brought up one of the top 5, in my opinion, wide receiver tandems in football, Justin Jefferson, and one, Jordan Addison. Now, the quarterback play certainly has been subpar this year, which might make it to where their numbers are not what you typically would see here from, especially one Justin Jefferson. But there is one player that has played well against Justin Jefferson throughout his career, and I wonder if he has played his last snap as a Dallas Cowboy, and that would be number 7, Trevon Diggs. Now, you've been updating us on the health status, the practice status of Diggs. It seems like, just from what's going on from listening to Brian Schottenheimer, this thing's fishy, and it doesn't sound like he's going to go against Minnesota, and I'm starting to wonder, is he going to go at all this year?
Yeah, and you're right, Zach, and I know, again, we were on the G-Bag Nation today talking about this. Gavin Dawson, who we work with, he was kind of giving his opinion about, getting Diggs out there. And I agree. I went into this whole thing once Diggs was brought back onto being able to practice. I was to the point of like, throw him out there. Let's play. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's get this thing going. And lo and behold, you start to hear things last week. Well, he didn't practice particularly well. And you're like, oh, okay. Did he not practice well because he's still banged up, or did he not practice well because of his attitude or something, and that sounds harsh, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And, if you talk to people within the circles, they tend to think that maybe that Diggs has kind of had some lackadaisical ho-hum, those types of practices where you weren't particularly fired up about the way he looked, the way he was taking, his job. And you wonder if, in fact, they're in a situation right now with him that he's kind of said, well, I've had enough. I'm just going to let me be as healthy as possible. I'm sure he's hearing the rumors. I'm sure he's hearing the national rumors. I'm sure he's hearing the local rumors that he is going to be a cap casualty. Here's a guy that already said, $500,000 to be away from the team. I'm totally okay. And so you wonder, you wonder if his approach has given the Cowboys that pause of, do we really want to play him when we've got others, when we've got Bland, when we've got Ravel, Bridges. It doesn't, we've all seen how that looked in Detroit. But up until that game, it seemed like that, Philadelphia game, Kansas City game, these guys held up well. Vegas game, they held up well. But, Detroit was a poor game. This Minnesota game, as we said, will be a challenge. But you wonder if the lackadaisical attitude is something that they're looking at, and maybe that Diggs is saying, I've had enough. And the team has also said, we agree with you. We've had enough too. So, that's where this thing's going to come down to. Tomorrow we'll get the ins and the outs for the game. And initially I thought this was going to be an in for Diggs. Kind of got one foot in the parking lot of believing this might be an out on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and we're getting now more and more removed from the 2021 All-Pro season, which was one of the best seasons. And I get it. Did he give up a lot of yards that year? That's what people wanted to point out. But his ability to take the football away, it was record-setting, really. I mean, record-tying, I guess, with 11 interceptions. It was unreal. He had 2 pick sixes in that game. We've seen that Trevon Diggs can be one of the best corners in the NFL. And like any corner, will he give up some big plays? Sure. That's also the reason why he gets interceptions. He'll gamble. He'll jump on some balls. The frustration throughout his entire career has always been his physicality and, his desire to tackle. And at times he's made big plays, like a game winner against Cincinnati. We've seen that from him, but he also had the George Kittle play against San Francisco that's haunted him as well. So when you trade Micah, and I had said it, this, I've said it on all of the Star other platforms. I didn't believe that Diggs would be on the team this year. If he didn't get hurt last year, I think they would have traded him in the offseason. There has been a friction building for whatever reason between Diggs and the Cowboys. And no matter who's right, I'm sure both sides have their stories, right? And probably both are vindicated in some and probably in the wrong in some. I do think the Cowboys have protected him from certain things being known, and they have looked out for the player. But they've also been very critical publicly of the player, like back in training camp. So I can get why Diggs might feel a certain type of way. But the bottom line is I like Brian if he is not all in. And there's whatever it is, the intensity is not where it needs to be in practice. If he's not loving the defensive scheme and how he's being used, maybe he doesn't really want to be a Cowboy anymore. He's over this, whatever it might be. If you're not 100%, if I don't know that you're fully bought in and you're invested, I like and support them just saying, you know what, we're not going to play you.
Yeah.
I've always, the narrative and the conversation around the Cowboys has always been the country club mentality. And that there is you can get away with anything, right? And we worry about the focus. We worry about, the discipline. Well, if Shoddy finally wants to instill that and build a culture, it doesn't happen overnight. That's when you bench CD and George Pickens in the first drive of a game. That's when you say, you know what, Diggs, you're not going out there. You are one of our best 3. He's got to be. He's got to be one of their best 3. I agree with you 100%. But if you're not, I'm not going to send the message to Savone Revel, a rookie, to Kalen Carson in year 2, to all the other guys we've got playing here. I mean, Donovan Izaraku you got young players on that defense. You're trying to set that standard now. And if I let a guy slack off, who's to say in 2-3 years they get frustrated with something, they want to slack off? Well, you did it for Diggs, right? That's the reason Al Harris isn't here anymore. Supposedly they didn't want him being coddled, and he coddled Diggs. So it's hypocritical to go back on that now. I support what they're doing as much as I wanted Diggs to play. 1, it would help the Cowboys if he's at his best self. 2, up that trade value if they can get a trade done. But if that's not where we're at, kudos to Shoddy and kudos to the organization for holding them out.
Yeah, I think we're to that point. I would be surprised, and I could very well be wrong when this goes to air on Friday, that I know listening to people talk, it was kind of like, yeah, we'll see if we activate him. We'll see. So, and you kind of get it is what it is, but I feel like that really both sides feel like it is what it is. I think they're honestly that Diggs felt hurt by Steven and Jerry going after him. And then he came back, he played, he got hurt. There's still that kind of that resentment of, well, why do we pay you? That's not the player's fault. The Cowboys made a determination that he was one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the league, and they paid him like it. It just financially, it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't benefited like you would have hoped. And so that's the thing that you're going to have to work through. But if he doesn't play this week, then I think you will not see him the rest of the year. That would be my guess. That would be my guess.
The other guy that I'm hoping has a bounce back game is Deron Bland. And Bland is the opposite when you talk about physicality. That dude, and effort, in my opinion, he's always going 100%. He plays through injury. He's tough. He'll hit you. I mean, that's why I think he's got the perfect play temperament to be a nickel corner, moved inside. It's a very physically demanding position. Just ask Jordan Lewis. But he is a good outside corner as well. Stats are coming out. Him in zone versus him in man. If you go back, you look at his interception season where he breaks the touchdown record, pick 6 record. He's playing a lot of man. Look, Flus is Flus. He's going to run. He likes to run zone. And has he mixed it up a little bit this year and played more man? Yeah, they've
against Kansas City. He did against Kansas City.
He did, right?
He broke character on that one game. Yeah.
So I think big picture they've botched the hire. And I think Matt Eberflus is a solid defensive coach. He's got a track record that speaks to that, but I don't think that his scheme necessarily fits the current players they had, and maybe they didn't really take that into account enough. Maybe these guys, as Ben Lieber said today when I asked him about linebackers' instincts versus talent, sometimes these guys have to play in a system and it takes them a while, and we're talking multiple years, which is why I don't think Flus is going anywhere, by the way, Cowboy fans. I think they're going to stress the continuity, and they're going to want to bring him back, and he's public enemy number 1, but I think you're going to be stuck with him. But Deron Bland, this is a big last 4 weeks for me, Brian. I mean, he's under contract now. They paid him. I want to see the guy we kind of fell in love with a couple of years ago. Where's our Deron Bland gone?
I'll tell you what, man, does not look like the same player. And I think a lot of it has to do with, it's again, the expectations, it's the pressure, it's the, coming off the foot injury, all these things that he's had to deal with, in his career. He was, when you talk about the pick sixes and right place, right time, how big would Deron Bland, he made a play on the ball early in that game that could have very well been a pick 6. He tripped, he got tripped up, he got tangled up with the receiver, and then the ball kind of goes off his hands. Maybe the Deron Bland of a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, picks that thing off on the run and is standing in the end zone celebrating with Cowboy fans. So that's the unfortunate thing. I think it's been a real struggle for Deron Bland. And as much as there's been problems with the Elams and the Bridges and with Ravel last week, Deron Bland probably is looking at himself like, man, I need a game where I need a game where all of a sudden it kind of gets me back on track, because I think he struggled. I think that, there's several guys in this defense that we really, really counted on. And I think that, look at Overshown coming back. I mean, we all tend to beat up on Murray and the other linebackers and stuff. Maybe Murray gets beat up on the most.
He does.
But Overshown has not been the Overshown that we expected. And maybe this is to your point about Eberflus not using – we've seen Mike Zimmer take Overshown and use him as a blitzer and be a factor in games. We've seen him, how he's, got him involved. But we yet to see him do stuff like that. We've yet to see him be – there's been maybe a couple of plays, like Arizona, maybe a tackle for loss play. But we haven't seen that explosive and, again, it's dealing with another knee injury coming back. He's worked his ass off to get to this point. There's probably some doubt in his head of,
Sure.
where he is. And But man, if you talk about somebody, he was billed as the savior of this defense. When it was just, oh, he'll be back, he'll be back, he'll be back, and he's come back. Has he been good? Yeah. Has he been great? No. Were we expecting a great player? Yes. I think there's several players on this defense that have been that way. We've expected some guys to play a lot better than they have on defense. And you could say Bland, you could say Sam Williams, you could sometimes say Oso Digizua. Just take your pick of a guy who you kind of thought was going to have a really good season or elevate his game, and it just really hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't. And I mean, that's a big reason why you're sitting at 6-1, and you
Yeah.
dropped some games you shouldn't have lost to. Before we get to our Dean Julian mailbag, let's look at the Cowboys offense versus that Vikings defense. You broke down, Flores and the scheme. And the one thing about Dak is he is very good against the blitz. I mean, the numbers this year are incredible. I think it's the third highest of his career, with 1,123 passing yards against the blitz. He's got a 97.6 passer rating, and against the blitz, he's currently got 106.7 passer rating, which is unreal. So he's been really good, but we're looking at probably Nate Thomas starting again.
Yeah.
And the communication, yes, you are at home, which hopefully is better for you, but they got to make sure they're all and Dak pre-snap. I mean, people with the Cowboys will tell you that's one of his biggest strengths. They feel really confident about him being able to kind of get the Cowboys in the right situations and checks. But this offensive line is going to make sure they have a bounce back game, because if you can block it up, then you'll be able to make plays in this Vikings secondary. But you can't lose pre-snap, to your point.
No, that is I think that's going to be the key to this game for the Cowboys, is that how well do you handle the pre-snap looks? And are you going to be in a situation where, and we always say this, and coaches always say this, got to stay ahead of the chains, got to stay, because all of a sudden Minnesota is a very heavy first and second down blitzing team. And then in third down, they don't blitz as much because they've got you backed up and they're going to play some coverage. As I mentioned earlier, you think of a very blitz-heavy team, which the Vikings are, but they play zone coverage behind it. So you're going to get a lot of some too deep looks. You're going to get that look where maybe some single high stuff. But and I said some of the zero coverage, but that's kind of an all-out blitz coverage that you play. They're the tops in the league, but the majority of their – and I was surprised when I put on their film. I'm like, okay, let me see this blitz-heavy team all of a sudden. Well, it's a blitz-heavy team that's playing zone coverage, and you're like going, whoa, that's really different. That's a different look. So, and they have some funny splits when it comes to run defense. They're first in the league when it comes to run stuffs, whether that's at the line or behind the line of scrimmage. And I asked Ben Lieber this question because I felt like that maybe some of their first and second down blitz looks or blitzes has kind of helped them play some run defense. But you watch them, they've given up, I think it was 103 first down runs, where runs have ended up as, first down. So they've struggled. They've struggled in some areas. I think they're 4.2 yards per carry, but they've got all these run stuffs. But you watch the tape and you will see teams that will have some success, running the ball on them. And so that's kind of where this game, I don't think Dallas could live in a world where all of a sudden it's 2nd and 12 all day or 2nd and 10 all day. I think Dallas has got to determine, how do you stay ahead of the chains? How do you stay ahead of Brian Flores, the way he calls defense, knowing that he's going to blitz you on first and second down? That's something he's done. Now, the Lions did something completely different. The Lions, we were talking about them last week. Mm-hmm. Their whole thing was, wow, they play a lot of man coverage. Well, they almost 50-50 that thing, man coverage and zone. which is something that Lions fans and media had been screaming that, hey, you can't play this much man coverage and not have a pass rush. Well, they played a lot of zone and got guys home against Dallas. The tackles were really poor in this last game. And I think that Brian Flores is going to think the same thing, is like, okay, how do I cover Lamb? How do I cover Pickens? How do I cover Ferguson? But how do I get pressure on Dak Prescott without probably having the blitz? We saw what the Lions did. The Lions brought 5-6 rushers at a time. Dallas didn't handle that particularly well. That has to kind of bode well for what Minnesota might want to do.
All right, let's get to our Dean Julia mailbag. Just a couple of questions for you before we give our final predictions. You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus, and we always like to throw out some mailbag questions. We'll let you know when we're recording, and you can give us some questions at Zach Wolchuk. And right now, for those of you that didn't know, at Brian Broaddus is under construction.
I'm under construction. Yeah, we're
working
trying
on that. But you can, I think, you can get to Brian on at Crown Global Media.
Crown Global Media. That's the Crown is spelled CRWN and then Global Media. So
okay,
Crown Global Media. Yeah, so you can find me if you need to.
There we go.
Yeah.
And make sure you're liking and subscribing on YouTube as well. Doing all right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Maybe another draft show in the works there.
Oh no, we got one coming. Yeah, we got one coming soon. And I know that you and Aisha Morrison, I'd be happy to go ahead and say something about it here. We're going to have a show called The Stack. And it's going to be a part of Crown Global Media. We'll still have the Doing All Right, and then Zach and Aisha will do a show called, like I say, The Stack, and it'll be focusing on the NFL draft. So super, super excited about that, having both those shows going off on Crown Global Media. And that will be after the Cowboys season when it is. So like after the first of the year, look for 2 shows coming again. Our show, we're doing all right, and then The Stack with Zach and Aisha Morrison.
Let's go. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. And we actually do have
with me hosting it up. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and we're gonna bring some
you're getting
people
back to your
in,
old,
have some guests and stuff like that. So yeah, we're growing here. We're growing here at Crown. So we're doing our very, very best. Excited about everything ahead.
Yeah, we're pumped. That's going to be really, really fun. Now, we did get a draft question from Brad Wright. He said, if we're running the first round for the Cowboys, who are we taking with our first 2 picks? Ideally, if we were picking here.
Yeah.
You got 2 guys that we could give like our dream scenario, but I guess realistically where maybe we think these guys are going. Cowboys I think have picks 15 and 27 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Right now. Yeah, he's going to make me get out my notes is what he's going to make me do here. I've got everything kind of tucked away right now. But yeah, you know what? Okay, are you kind of thinking what I'm thinking when it comes to these linebackers and the corners? I kind of feel like the cornerback just right now, Zach, right now, I kind of feel like the cornerback room is the deepest of the rooms. When it comes to these, when you start to look at these guys, like I know I've got to learn how to say this kid's name. It's Brandon Cece.
Yes. I got to double check too. South Carolina corner who did officially declare today.
Yeah, there you go. And then you got Delane from LSU is a quality one. That's a first round. McCoy from Tennessee, who didn't play at all this season, but should be ready. By the way, McCoy, he's from White House, the same White House, Texas, the same place from Patrick Mahomes. So, and then Terrell from Clemson, another outstanding player. So, yeah, and I actually looked, and I need to type up the report for Colton Hood from Tennessee. I got him outside that group. So, this is kind of a deep group when it comes to your for your corners, if you want to go that route. Outside linebackers, I know you've got as an edge Arvell Reese. You've got him as an edge. I got him still as an outside linebacker. I think he's you can't draw them up any better looking than this guy. at 6'4",
No.
243 pounds. I mean, the speed, the agility, he could be a tough guy to run away from. He covers a lot of ground. He can overwhelm blockers. He could drop. He could cover. He's best when he gets after the passer. And I think that's why you've got him as an edge. I mean, a hyper explosive player. When you watch him go, this guy is one of the best players in the country, regardless of the position. I have no idea. I don't think Dallas. I think you would have to think about trading up, of course, to get a guy like this. I think when the dust completely settles, he's going to be one of the top 3 players in this draft. But a guy like Sonny Styles, I know you and I both like him a lot. If you watch the Indiana game, did a really good job of getting off blocks. That was the Big Ten championship game. But this is a guy that was a safety at Ohio State. He switched positions in 2024. He's got impressive speed. He can close the ball sideline to sideline. You give me a guy like Styles, you maybe throw me one of these corners. I know we're going to probably talk about a safety in this thing. I don't know if you can we'll see. You might have to grab the safety with your pick and then turn around and see if Styles or one of these other guys are there with the second pick. So I didn't mean to take all your time there, Zach.
No, you're good.
But if you got a thought there, I'd appreciate that as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think right now when you're just looking at how the board falls.
Downs, Ohio State. Yeah, we got to look at.
Yeah.
There's some other safeties.
And I love Downs.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, there's McNeil from East Carolina that I've been told he's a bigger body. That's where Quinyon Mitchell actually went to school. Excuse me, it was Savone Revel. So, or it might be Toledo. He might be a Toledo kid where Quinyon Mitchell went. It's one of those.
Mitchell went to school at Toledo. Yeah.
He's a guy that we need to look. I think he just got a Shrine Bowl invitation or a Senior Bowl, one of the two. But Styles, what really impressed me about Sonny Styles is when I first watched him, I watched Texas and I watched Michigan. Yeah. And against Texas, you really see him get blocked. I mean, when linemen get to the second level, you do. He doesn't really get off the blocks. Yeah. Watching him against Indiana, you just see the improvement and
completely different player. Yeah.
So much better. Like his ability to scrape, to kind of bend and maneuver around blocks. I mean, he was sensational against Indiana, and he is a guy that naturally, I think for a linebacker, is a good cover guy. Like you'll see him recognize, all right, here's a crosser coming as a wide receiver. I'm going to pick this up. Like he's got good zone awareness.
Former safety. Yeah, we
absolutely.
Talked about that. Former safety. Yeah.
And in year 2 now playing linebacker, like I just think his best football is ahead of him. He just turned 21 years old. Like he's a guy that's just going to get better. And physically 6'4", 222, you can't draw him up better. I wouldn't mind if Jermon McCoy, the Tennessee corner, and again, it's a guy coming off an ACL, but he 100% is the best of this bunch.
Yeah.
He can do it all. If he fell to 15, I'm pulling the trigger on him, and I'm taking one of the linebackers at 27 with the Packers pick. And honestly, I don't think it's a reach. I'm taking Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. You think at bottom of the first. I'm doing it. I'm just doing it because you're not going to get him otherwise, and I want him on the team. And I think he's better than C.J. Allen out of Georgia. I do. I just think
I have Allen in the second. I mean, but then again, I'm probably going to have probably 16 to 18 first round grades. Because I haven't done the quarter. There's some positions I haven't done. But there's the quarterbacks I haven't done. I mean, I'm at 14 right now on first round grades.
Yeah.
So, it's.
And Rodriguez is right there. Like I got a 2 on him, but to me, it's like I like him enough that I don't even care. I might just throw.
You have him better than Allen from Georgia, then.
And I've got Allen as a 2 as well, but I've got Rodriguez ahead of him on my stack. And I love him. Anthony Hill Jr., I know John Owning, not a huge fan of. I like Anthony Hill Jr. I've got a soft spot for him, though, because I covered him at Denton Ryan in high school. It's like Billy Bowman Jr. from last year, who actually had an awesome year prior to injury for Atlanta. But Jacob Rodriguez just has, to me, he's like a throwback. He does everything for you. Like, is he going to run the fastest 40? Probably not. But he just makes plays all over the field. He's a sure tackler. He's reliable. He's a leader. I think he is a good cover guy. He can blitz for you. He's a former quarterback, so the football IQ is just through the roof, and you see it when you watch him play. Like Teddy Buchanan last year from Cal. Like he sees it and he goes, man. So is he going to necessarily be the athletic freak in Arvell Reese is? No. I'm interested in how he tests, But I think as I wear this Texas Tech Red Raider hoodie, because I'm just all Texas Tech now.
I thought you were going to give us some Bailey commentary
I know.
on the edge. Yeah.
But and edge is another position in play.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree.
And maybe at 15, I'd be okay taking David Bailey. I think Bailey's got some holes in his game. I worry about teams running at him, and he's going to get worn down. I think there's games he's shown the ability to set the edge, but there's also, and him and his teammate, Romello Height, they'll get out of position. They'll get out of their gaps. But gosh dang, when they can pin their ears back and go get the quarterback, they are really, really good. And this team needs pass rushers. But I think corner and linebacker, that's just kind of where this draft is looking to be able to fill your needs, but also get probably the best player on your board.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I bet, man, you're right about Bailey. And the one thing I said, the last line of my notes was, has to be careful not to jump around blocks and create gaps.
Yeah.
Because that's some of those things that, you see, you're right. You see the bend and you see, you see him kind of got that twitchy element to his game, the way he wins with the speed, the burst, the pass rush move, the swipe, the rip, the swim, all that stuff he plays with. But man, you'll see some snaps where blockers kind of move him around. Watching the BYU and Utah games, man, those kind of got my attention. I was thinking, give me those. Utah's got those two offensive tackles that that we'll all talk about here when we do our show, The Stack.
And I'll tell you what, if Fano, the right tackle, fell to 15, he's probably going to be my highest rated player. I'd probably take him.
Oh, he's my highest rated tackle over the Miami. The Miami tackle. Would we determine
Mauigoa.
Mauigoa? Yeah. Mauigoa. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and that's a left guy. That's a left side guy, left guard, left tackle.
Yeah, right.
That I think some teams might actually be looking at him as a guard. I've been reading.
Sure,
he's got the size to do it. I could see that. Let's get one more in because we ended up going on our draft nerdy tangent there. Let's go to Mr. Vallejos.
Check out the stack, please.
Yeah, there's a little preview for you.
Yeah, there you go.
If Matt Eberflus doesn't show a sign of improvement or adjustments in these last 4 games, do you think the front office would look to move on?
I think the only chance that they would move on from Matt Eberflus is if Brian Schottenheimer recommended that they move on. I don't think it's a Jerry Jones. I think if Jerry Jones wants to keep continuity, and you don't want to have a 4th coordinator in 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I think Jerry Jones will take the advice of Brian Schottenheimer, especially if this team finishes out 10-6-1. Maybe they don't make the playoffs. We'll see how it all shakes out. Even if they go 9-7-1 kind of a thing, I think that's a positive year for a first-year head coach. But I also think that it would give him the credibility to say, hey, let's move on from Flus. I have a guy in mind I want to bring on board. And I think that's the only way that they change. I don't think it's going to be a Jerry Jones decision. I think it's going to be a Matt Eberflus recommendation, and then Stephen Jones will react on that.
You made a good point about look at some of the stat, the coaches that either have gotten fired or might get fired.
Yeah.
And from those staffs, is there anybody looking for a job that maybe, whether there's a connection with Shoddy?
I look at the college places too.
Yeah.
I listen, Matt Patricia, you can say what you want about Matt Patricia as a head coach, but Matt Patricia at Ohio State, he lost a bunch of weight, good for him, and he's got that pencil stuck up in his behind his ear.
Yeah.
But he is coaching his ass off at Ohio State. And there's a guy that plays with an odd front, and kind of gives you some different looks. And man, trust me, he's worked with some damn good. We just talked about basically the whole Ohio State defense.
Yeah.
Well, they got a defensive tackle named McDonald that you need to watch too. That's kind of a 1 technique, 3 technique guy. So yeah, I would, I'd look at the college ranks, I look at the pro ranks, and try and find you the best guy, the most qualified guy.
All right, let's do one last one here from Darren, and then we'll get out of here. But what do you think about the 5-man front and the man coverage? Is that something that like Flus needs to do more of, or is that being made more of a big deal than it should be?
Well, in the Detroit game, the first 2 series, it was effective, and maybe that's something that he needs to kind of stick with. I kind of feel like that he's been, since the Quinnen Williams trade, he's been adapting on a weekly basis. What happened against the Vegas Raiders? Played almost 93% zone coverage. What did he do against the Philadelphia Eagles? Played almost 89% zone coverage. What did he do against the Kansas City Chiefs? He played 40% man coverage, 60% zone. I think he's trying to kind of adapt to the Lions. He kind of went back to a little bit more of his zone coverage is what he did. So I think he's trying to kind of find a way. He had something early in that game. He just didn't carry it. And they had to turn over in the short field, and it was a damn short field all night. It seemed like every time Detroit got the ball. So he was put in some bad situations that way. But I kind of feel like the 5-man line, if not the 5-man line, he needs to think about maybe bringing Overshown as the extra rusher, not James, not Murray, not Logan Wilson. It needs to be Overshown as the extra rusher. He has the feel. Now, maybe he's worried about running him in there and then, him getting knocked over and someone falling to his leg or whatever, that kind of thing. But, man, we're to the point right now, the 5th rusher needs to come. But, man, when you watch the Vikings bring the 5th and 6th rusher, it is super creative. It's designed well. It's executed well. It kind of is like, whoa, that's what it's supposed to look like. Not what Dallas is doing where they're just running a linebacker into the B gap and then there's like nothing going on there. You need to get somebody home. Minnesota creates free rushers. Eberflus, we haven't seen him create free rushers really all year long. That's a big, big difference between the two teams.
Amen. That's the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus. Happy early birthday, by the way. Well, it is his birthday if you're listening on Friday. It's his birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's very kind of everybody. Again, super excited about the work we're doing here on Love of the Star. Super excited about. I'll still be a part of. We'll all still be doing all the things that we normally do. I can make an announcement too, though. I won't be a part of DallasCowboys.com at the end of the season. That's something else since we're making announcements and stuff. But yeah, I'm focusing. Like I've got our work here at. I've still got all my stuff at 105.3 The Fan. Super excited about all that. But going to do the work that I was going to do with DallasCowboys.com. I'm going to focus now with the stuff that we're doing here at Crown Global Media. And Derek Eagleton, the folks at DallasCowboys.com, couldn't be happier. My career in media is because what I did at DallasCowboys.com. And I'll always be indebted to those folks. But I will be, from talking to Derek and stuff, part of the 3-day draft coverage when it's 105.3 The Fan, and then also DallasCowboys.com. So you'll lose me for the draft show, but you'll pick me up because, again, you need to watch the Doing All Right and you need to watch the Stack. Those shows will get you ready for your draft.
Well, you're the man. I mean, we couldn't do the 3 days of draft coverage without you. So very excited for the Stack.
Appreciate you, man.
Shout out to DallasCowboys.com. Everybody over there, we love you. And thank you to everybody.
Great folk. Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you to everybody who listens to Love of the Star or watches it however you consume us. We really, really appreciate you. Of course, just trying to give you the best Cowboys content that we possibly can. That's the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus. I'm Zach Wolchuk. Until next time, hugs and hand pounds, everybody.